Hello and welcome to Pitch Purpose, the podcast for marketing leaders in purpose-driven organizations. Behind every business, there's a marketing team working to balance profit and purpose. I'm Iain Scott, CEO of digital agency Exceptional, and I'm joined by my co-host Emma Heley, MD and founder of PR and content agency Thinking Hat Media. Hey Emma.
Hi. We're asking some of the country's most experienced CMOs and marketing directors about moments that have defined their careers, whether it's breaking the internet, Kim Kardashian style, or pioneering new campaigns. We're revealing key details surrounding marketing success stories and how they landed once launched.
We'll explore the purpose behind each campaign, the impact it delivered, the lessons learned along the way, and crucially, we're going to dig into the financials as well, the rollout costs and the return on investment. This is a show for marketers in purpose-driven organizations who want to learn how others have successfully balanced purpose, profit, and commercial growth.
Welcome to Pitch Purpose. Let's dive in. Today we are joined by Ashley Bailey, tech entrepreneur, money saving expert, and the founder of Join Dig, which is a platform which helps shoppers save time and money, making pre-loved products easier to find. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. Great to meet you both. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. But I've got a question for you, Ashley. Why would I want to pay to wear someone else's old sweaty jumper?
Good question. So pre-loved isn't just used. Pre-loved could be returned. It could be unused. It could be new. It could be new with tags. So there's various different ways that we would, I suppose, categorize pre-loved. So if we look at eBay and Vinted, for example, you can have a product which has been sent to yourself, has been returned unused, but for a retailer that has been box opened. So box open means basically it can't be sold as new anymore. So there's various different degrees of pre-loved.
Okay, and this is how you've built Join Dig, on this kind of premise of, you know, changing some of the behaviour change culturally in society that perhaps people now are willing to and ready to buy, as you call it, sort of pre-loved. What's the story? Why did it start? What's the kind of, you know, in it for you kind of thing? What's the purpose?
Yeah, of course. So basically it started by trying to find, I should change the story, but it started by finding a microwave for my kitchen. My wife wanted a specific Neff microwave, which was a specific year and a specific size to fit in our kitchen. I spent 2-3 hours looking at every retailer. Unfortunately, it was 2022 model, so it was kind of end of line. So after 3 or 4 hours, I managed to find one, which was from eBay. It wasn't used, and good question before. It wasn't used. I wouldn't be buying a used microwave.
That'd be grim.
My wife definitely wouldn't allow me to use a used microwave. But what I did is I found one. It was from Buy It Direct. It was end of line, so they wanted to get it from their stock level direct and move it off to eBay, the marketplace, because it's lost its value. There's no point advertising it on their site. So I bought it. It was brand new. And I kind of came up with a kind of, I suppose, eureka moment is, you know, why is it taking me 3 or 4 hours to find a product that I want? On the flip side of that, using Google, it was showing me every different example, Neff 2025, and I was purposely looking for this make and model. And I suppose that eureka moment has then progressed onwards. I think since then, growth of Vinted, Depop, Backmarket, and the pre-love industry. I think last year pre-loved outsold new for the first time. So huge growth area. And then we kind of looked at how we could better, I suppose, the consumer journey. So how do you tie in consumers who don't always want to buy pre-loved? For me, it was actually by showing users who are customers who buy just new pre-love alternatives as part of that journey, either by sharing a URL, uploading an image, or typing in a make and model.
Because there's a big AI component, isn't there?
Huge.
And I was having a look at it as well. You know, on the mobile phone, it's easy to take a picture and it will
Love that aspect.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it will find the product straight away, right, and give you where you could buy
Yeah.
it and
I mean,
pre-love.
yeah, I mean, look, it's changing at a rapid rate. You know, where we started this in December this year compared to where we relaunched it into September, the changes have been astronomical with AI. We couldn't have launched with that previously, but now the changes have enabled us to actually allow that service. There's one thing allowing a service, but it's allowing a service which is good. if we brought this out in December, I wouldn't have been comfortable that the service was good enough for a consumer proposition. And that's where it's changed quite a lot.
Actually, your former Google, you were saying Telefonica. How did your experience at those organisations shape how you developed this product from a tech and AI perspective?
I suppose I love being around good people. So luckily I worked with some really senior people at Google and how to integrate with them. Telefonica, it was really senior leadership stakeholders. And I think I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit inside me, which is, if this is a problem, why has it not been solved?
Yeah.
And I think that never kind of went away. So since I was kind of 20, I've always kind of run businesses and sold them and kind of looked at fixing problems. And I think that's where it's kind of come from, is that kind of burning, that intent and desire inside me to kind of go, right, well, how do we solve this problem? When we looked at Join Dig, there was never a proper solution how we could solve this problem, but it's kind of spending a bit of money to invest. And that's, I suppose, a hobby inside me rather than a job.
Yeah. Talking about investing money, what has been your best investment in terms of marketing campaigns? What's worked well for you so far? And obviously you're quite a new embryonic company, but what's worked well?
Yeah, for us it was quite competition led. So competition led and rewarding, I suppose, people to see who we are. I feel on socials there's a lot of stuff going on, and trying to capture people's, I suppose, time to reasons to why to invest or why to follow has been probably one of our biggest challenges and probably one of our biggest successes. I think we've learned a lot from it. We've learned that a lot of things have not worked. We found a lot of problems, but I suppose that's part of launching a business. But for me, it's probably been competition wise. It's trying to incentivize people to follow you. Unfortunately, it's still quite old school. I think it's people like to be paid, not paid, but like to be paid or rewarded for doing something still. So it's quite old school.
Let's dig down into that a little bit more. How old is Join Dig for us? I feel like it's a year old, are we?
Yeah, so it's launched in December, so end of December, officially kind of launched 1st of January. We built it until kind of June and then took it offline and rebuilt it again after some investment. So relaunched again September. Okay,
so we're talking Jan 25.
Yes.
And then relaunched in June 2025. So certainly at the time of recording, we're end of September now. That's only months before. So we've got a lot of the campaigns, I imagine, are about starting from scratch, building a follower from following nothing.
Correct.
Should we talk about that then? Tell us a bit more about how you've managed to do that. What's been the campaign about? How you've grown followers? We'll dig into some of the financials in a minute.
A lot of it is about brand messaging. Is trying to hook in from a consumer. Pre-loved is not kind of like you said before a sweaty jumper. It's more around kind of savings. It's more around how you buy people in to say, well, actually, it will take seconds to try and find you the right deal. So a lot of it is about brand messaging. And look, we've done some things right and we've done a lot of things wrong. So a lot of things from my side is that. But still, it comes back to competition wise. How we're getting people to buy into a new brand. How we're getting people to buy into following us and using our site. So I would say messaging has been key for us. Is trying to buy in people to believe what we're trying to do. From a sustainability angle as well.
Have you done that? What have been the key messages that you've amplified on social that's ultimately led to an increase of following? And also a key question I want to know as well is the spend behind that. Was there some obvious, we spent this money, we gave these platforms money in order to amplify our message, because we've got to get that kind of that wheel turning from a standing start?
Look, it's hard from a standing still point from launch. We had to accept that it was a sunk cost. We weren't expecting much back from it because we had to kind of in theory buy our consumers to try and get people to see what we are. I think not many people open up to that, but that's the reality of you are brand new. You've taken the wrappers off a company. Why would you follow us? And we have to then spend money on. So for us, we probably didn't make loads of money back, but it was investment from our point of view, which was we need to get our messaging out there. Our messaging was more around sustainability, pre-loved, but it's also about saving time. For us, it's a time piece. Going back to my example where the business has come from, and when you speak to people individually, everyone's experienced this problem. I want to find these trainers in this size, in this colour, and I don't want to spend a fortune. People find that product, but then spend 2 or 3 hours of potentially looking for a better deal, then spend another 30 minutes looking for a voucher code.
Yeah.
So for us, it was kind of how do we build all that in and shove it in an easy place? So what we did is we tried to pull out that message. We spent about 6.5K. Mainly this was on Instagram, Google, a little bit, maybe 10-15%, and TikTok. So creating UGC content to try and push this out. A lot of learnings. We had to find out who our demographic was, female-led, so kind of 18 to 28, and probably worked out actually mumfluencers, so mums, new mums, ladies who've come out, have just had a kid on maternity, have unfortunately had a drop in salary, but are looking for, like my son, my wife, looking for Lennon to find a Zara top, but doesn't want to pay a fortune. So for us, it was we spent 6.5K trying to, I suppose, identify who our customer was and probably who our demographic was. Again, we didn't get much back from that, but what we did is we identified who we were and who we needed to target. So it helped us moving forward.
Yeah, I think I agree that level of initial research and planning is not going to see an immediate return straight away. But in future, assuming those demographics don't change, you've got that research to take forward on most other channels as well.
It's an investment, but it's a sound investment from our side. And actually moving forward, the influencers we're working with now have been built around that 6.5K investment. So actually it's been a very good investment from our side, because now moving forward, we're spending a lot more money on a customer base that we know, a target audience that we believe and we know is the right target audience.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually how much that investment has changed throughout the scaling up process, because I imagine 6.5K doesn't go very far now.
No. So we initially raised 200K. That was part of our kind of SEIS round. In July, we closed off 850, so 850K. We're still looking at closing a little bit more, so we're still having conversations. So that budget has changed quite considerably. But again, we wouldn't have closed that round without that 6.5K being spent, because going to these investors who are, high net worths, want to know, what investment have you done? Who do you know? Who's your customer? You've got to come back and look trained and understand, we've done this research, we've spent that money, we've done the MVP, we're now ready to go to the next range of our business. So it feels small, but we managed to get what we needed out of that, a proof of concept as such.
What was the result in terms of this kind of follower campaign then? You spent 6.5K. I recognise that there is some research that you can take forward within that. But what was the result? How many followers? How many sales?
Yeah, so look, we got up to 2,000 followers. Instagram, Facebook was about 700-800. TikTok was probably slightly smaller, probably sub 300. So from our side, it did what we wanted it to do, was to kind of fulfill and build out our business and build out our followers. That we're a member-centric business. Part of that member-centric means we have to get people signed up. We have to get people to believe the story. So that's been something which we really wanted to kind of build out. With regards to sales, it was a small amount. This goes back to probably the issue around the previous technology. It was 34 categories. And even though we had 17, 18 million products, when you actually look at the internet and you look at people who are buying different categories, it wouldn't always show up. And it was a browser extension, so it would only work on a browser. So there was many learnings on that. So
Sorry, go on, Em.
Oh no, I was going to say, but perhaps another learning was the crowdfunding campaign. I think, am I right in saying, I think you launched to raise 225K. Why didn't it work? What happened?
It was a very painful period in my life.
No.
So look, the Crowdcube piece is a great idea. We learned a lot of that, and I think the way their business model works is you've got to have 80% of that committed. We had a high net worth who committed 200K, and I suppose their model is built from a fear of missing out. These guys are just about to close this round. You've got this amount and then you oversubscribe, and that's how Crowdcube works, which was a bit of a learning for me as well. Again, that's their business model. It felt like they could probably market it more. Again, not to build on that negativity too much. So unfortunately there was two phases. We probably weren't mature enough for a business.
Okay.
We needed more followers. We needed more members. We would then go out and say, look, we're raising. Can we get our members and followers to invest? We probably weren't mature enough for that side. And the second one was, unfortunately, we had an investor who had committed to raise the 200, but he had a look into from HMRC. So he had to hold his investment off. So unfortunately, that was...
Who was that?
Very confidential, yeah. I can feel it being searched around London for, yeah. So look, it was I don't look back at those couple of months fondly, but what I do look back at it is from that period, we sat down with being in trouble, to be honest, and really analysed our business. And now, fast forward that to September, where we are right now, is probably the biggest change of where we were. And actually, even though it was very painful and very tough mentally, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to us.
How did you go from the Crowdcube kind of crisis to then actually finding the investors you've got now? And are we able to know who those investors are?
Yeah, I can probably fringe around some of them. So there's a gentleman called Paul Wright. So he is formerly Ideal World.
Yes.
So he is unbelievably talented. Sold the business twice. Not once, but twice, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
We've also got I would say like a retail mogul in the business as well. And we've got a gentleman called Jez, who's Abbott Lion. So he's the CEO there. So look, we've got 3 very good people around us.
Okay.
Which is great, and in retail. And I think because we've got this, going back to this 6.5K, we knew our demographic. We'd done the MVP. We had some unfortunate news, but we didn't give up. That time of losing Crowdcube, we kind of came back to the drawing boards. We were going a little bit retail. We were going a little bit eBay. Okay. And a lot of people were asking the question is, well, what's the difference between eBay and you? And the problem, they were right. There was no difference. And we'd lost our identity a little bit. And actually looking back at the Crowdcube piece and the investor pulling out, if we'd secured that, I actually think we'd be in trouble right now.
Okay.
But what we did is we went back to the drawing board, re-changed and brought ourselves back. Is what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to do? Is to try and help the consumer when they're just about to buy a product, to share, to take an image and find them the best deal in seconds. Going back to what we were at the time, we were a retailer advertising products. So we lost our identity.
How are you marrying up losing out the opportunity for that investment and then being in trouble? You said if we'd taken that investment on, we would have been in trouble. Yeah.
So I think we would have carried on down that route of being a retailer. I don't think we would have identified we were going down the wrong route. So I think we would have. I go back to it. You have a safeguard. You've got money in the business. There's no need to panic. You've got look. It was only small amounts, but it was enough to kind of keep us going for 6 months.
Yeah.
My worry would have been we would have kept down that path where when it got pulled out, we had to really look at who are we and identify, go back to the drawing board. And I go back, it's the best thing that ever happened to us.
Okay, so the learning there is that without that cash, it's forced you to innovate. It's forced you to really look again at what are you doing the right thing? There's a great book, it's called Profit First. And although it's more about sort of finance management, the way that you manage finances is to kind of essentially always depleting where you think your money is by putting it off into pots. And a concept within the book is, listen, if you think you don't have enough money, you will just think harder.
Yes.
More cleverly perhaps about how to spend it. And in this situation, it sounds like it's been a help rather than a hinder.
Absolute help. Yeah, absolute help. And, the 2 months after that has then led us into a bigger round of investment. And without that, again, dark period, we wouldn't have raised the bigger amounts and we'd still be making mistakes. Yeah. So it's probably the best thing that ever happened to the business.
Let's talk about the funding element, because within there's some promotional element, there's some marketing, because you want to bring awareness to the fact that there is an investment opportunity, even way back when it was with, forgive me, Crowdcube, if I got that right?
Yes. Yeah.
What did you do to promote the fact that there was an investment there? How did you market that?
So with Crowdcube, it was quite tough, to be honest. So they limit you to one e-shot. But look, you don't spend a fortune, so it's kind of quite relevant. Again, we didn't have we weren't a mature enough business to push out. I think they want a business which is maybe 6 months ahead of us. They've got customers, they've got investors, they've got pots of people they can pick up with. The problem is we had high net worths who then had small investors, but they didn't want to introduce their investors because they didn't want to lose their followers who would invest into them. So it was a bit of a chain reaction. So everyone that we knew had a list of, say, 100 high net worths, but didn't want to send the Crowdcube link because they didn't want to lose their followers who invest into their businesses. So actually it stopped us from expanding where we wanted to get to. So the Crowdcube piece was hard, but kind of looking at this 850 we've just raised, great people around me. I'm very lucky. We spent a lot of time investing into relationships, and trying to be who we are and trying to be not to change. So kind of, I mentioned Keith at KBA,
Yes.
He's such a big personality. We've got a lot of high net worths who have backed what I've done previously, and that kind of really helped us and kind of got to where we needed to get to. So I'm a big believer of having great people around you, and that really helped me and the business move to the next level.
At what point in your journey did you realise you needed external PR support?
Very early. So probably December last year.
Wow, so literally when you were ready to launch then.
we kind of, I think there's two ways you can run a business. You can either run it very slowly and accept you can spend a couple of £100 here and there and accept it grows organically. I think for the business we're trying to achieve or trying to get to eventually is you need to spend quite hard and you need to get in front of people.
Yeah.
And also that's one element to get people to come on and buy. But you've also got to look behind you and go, what's the competition doing? And what happens if somebody with a bigger budget comes in and overtakes you? And that, for me, is where we raise bigger.
Yeah.
We raise bigger because this business has got to go quite hard, quite quickly. Keith has been great. We're working with Bam Bam Social. She previously did Jeremy Clarkson's Farm, and she's been fantastic. We've just brought on a consultancy who are Meta and Google. And again, we've had great people around us who are coming into the business from the likes of Abbott Lion, performance managers. So I am who I am, and I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm trying to get better people around me to make the right decisions, and that's definitely from a business decision what we're trying to do.
Did you ever doubt yourself?
Oh, 100%.
Ashley?
100%. Yeah, I sound confident on here, but again, it goes back to the June element. It was very dark. We were out of money. It was quite tough. And then I've got a family, so we've got 2 young kids.
Yeah.
So trying to be Mr. Confident around your family whilst trying to get this back on track was tough. I had to invest, so my savings. I hope my wife doesn't listen, but my savings are in there, and that's tied in for a couple of years. I kind of really felt like we were onto something, and I think sometimes you've got to get through that dark period. I think somebody said to me, it's like when it's raining, it's lightning. Why would you stop? You carry on until the sunshine comes out.
Totally.
And I'm a massive fan of that.
Yeah.
And I think people fail at a point where they give up.
Yeah.
And I think you just don't give up. So I think that's the entrepreneurial side of me. But look, lots of doubts. Lots of credit card spending. We went on a trip to see the team, which was 20-30 on a credit card, and which was, hopefully my wife doesn't listen to this, but that was nerve-wracking, to be honest, because I had to pay for my colleague to go out, and it was very expensive. And although we had commitment, the money wasn't in our bank, but we had a period of time where we had to go, so we didn't want to miss that choice. But look, you've
got to speculate to accumulate.
Yeah,
sometimes take a calculated risk.
I'm a risk taker.
Yeah.
There's no hiding that if it's quite obvious.
Yeah,
but,
it's paying off.
Hopefully, hopefully there's still a lot to go, but I felt we've got something good, and I felt we've got something exciting. And then when you look at the caliber investors we've got, it kind of felt this was worth peddling. So I think there's a decision to be made by, if you're a business owner, by myself or by you to work out, do you give up or do you carry on? And that's a question only the entrepreneur can answer themselves.
Actually, I want to dig down into a little bit more on what you've just mentioned around getting investment. You said you were very lucky and that you were surrounded by a lot of good people. I'm going to push that, I'm going to back that away a bit or challenge it, because I don't believe in luck, number one. You must have invested a lot of time, a lot of money. Usually when you're finding investment, you're kissing a lot of frogs.
Yes.
And that in itself is, something that is going to take time and money. You've got to join the right kind of clubs, be around the right kind of people. What was your journey on that then? How did you ultimately meet these people?
Yeah, look, a lot of frogs. A lot of frogs. Let's not be. It was tough. Again, it was really tough. I suppose we've got to, again, goes back to Keith at KBA was really good. And I think we'd invested in these relationships, and we'd invested in our story and how we could help people from a sustainability point of view. The technology was coming on, and I think people really believed in what we were doing as well. I suppose the luck piece for me, it's like you create your own luck. So I'm a big fan of that, and it's goes back to kind of that entrepreneurial spirit. We kissed a lot of frogs. We've had a lot of no's, a lot of rejection. But again, I think for me, it's around this relationship piece.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's dig down a bit more. If I was, I've created my own AI app. I'm in tech. I'm building a SaaS product, but I don't know anyone. What would I do? Where would I go? How would I? What places should I visit? Clubs should I join? Like from a standing start, what would be the course of action you'd recommend I take?
Yeah, I think it's looking at clubs. It's looking at EIS funds, SEIS funds. I think you've got to look at the money you are raising and the amount you're raising. I think there's definitely a lot of high net worth money out there. It's working with financial institutions. It's working with specialists. It's working with people who've got, like 100 people they look after their finances for. Are they specialists? There's lots of people out there. And look, I'm from Manchester. I would not be able to run this business and raise this money, unfortunately, from Manchester.
Really?
I think for me, the reason this business survived, we all talk about the Northern Fund and we all talk about it's definitely up and coming, but my opinion is there is so much more money here.
In London?
In London, from an entrepreneurial point of view, it's a lot easier to be sold in.
Did you have to do a lot of networking?
I do a lot of networking, yeah. I don't, people seem to think I like it, but I can't say I do love it, if I'm honest.
Why not?
I find it tough, to be honest. I was a salesman back 10, 15 years ago. I've now probably gone more into tech, so more behind the scenes. So even though I probably look a bit more chatty, I find it tough. It's just not as natural, to be honest. Like once I'm flowing, I'm good. But I kind of have to kind of get myself in the mood for it a little bit, to be honest.
I mean, it's up there, top three fears people have, right? Is death, I think, is third. This is the level. Second, I think, is public speaking. And perhaps first, or maybe joint, is walking into a room full of people you don't know. I mean, I love learning about people, and I love people's background. I think sometimes I can see if people aren't interested straight away, and I can't see that then, unsee it.
Or looking beyond you.
Luckily, it's not happening here. It's not happening here. But and then I kind of feel like, well, I'm done, and then I walk away. So I'm trying to get better at that.
You mentioned one of your investors before. What's their name? Sorry,
Paul.
Yep. What was your journey to meeting Paul?
KBA, actually. So KBA, Keith, you know
I
Keith
do.
yourself. He's the man of the people. He's been amazing. He's been like a second dad to me. So he introduced us to Paul. We met Paul over a period of 3 months. A lot of hard selling. He's a tough entrepreneur. He's sold Ideal World twice and been very successful.
So KBA was introduction to Paul.
Yes.
Let's track back. How do you know KBA?
Our investor, Paul Tanner, who runs Allen Day Cars, he was managed by KBA. And he introduced us to KBA to look after our marketing.
And then Paul Tanner?
He invested into... it's good. Yes. You're going back well here. So we had our first investor, Ashwin Bedi, who was good friends with Paul Tanner. And that's kind of, I suppose, the chain reaction.
So I'm trying to think ultimately, where did it start? Where is the thing that began this network?
Yeah, growth? So ultimately, one of the investors invested into my other business. I went in to meet him we go and meet for a pizza every 4 or 5 weeks as a general update. He's an investor, but he's a friend. And I was telling him what we were doing, and I was showing him, it was called Join Peekaboo when we launched the Chrome extension. He was a bit kind of, wow, this is amazing. Like, how are the savings so big? Yeah. And then he said, look, I'd love to invest. And we gave him a good deal. And then we set up a round table with 3 or 4 investors, and Paul invested. And then he introduced us to Keith. And then Keith, he's now got some investment in there, and Paul and various others have come from there as well.
I'm trying to wonder if there is a particular event that you went to that ultimately, sprung this seed of what ended up being meeting Paul, who invested.
So when I go back to actually how I met Ashwin was through a financial advisor called Kevin, and he manages probably up to 100, 200 people's high net worth funds.
Right.
And that's probably where it's come from. So he, again, is probably my third UK London dad. Really good friends, really good, close, great guy. Has always believed in what I've done. Yeah. So I spoke to him about this originally. He then invested, and then Ashwin invested, and it's that, I suppose, that chain reaction again.
It's the power of the network, isn't it? And also building those connections, meaningful connections.
Yeah. But it's also as well, it's invested in that relationship. Yeah. A lot of my investors who invest, I call now friends. Yeah. And I think it's not then a hard sell. We're not kind of that, look, I'm here to talk to you about investment. We're here to, let's have a chat. Yeah. And by the way, I'm doing this.
What's happening?
Yeah,
and how's
exactly.
It going?
And I think that's where I'm really good at. If I like to make people friends, it becomes a lot closer and a lot easier for me to deal with stuff we're interested in. I love football. A lot of my investors like football, but then we talk about investment and opportunities, and for me that's where I'm really interested in. And then it comes back to that kind of walking into a room full of people is, I probably don't have that much to talk about. Do you like football? No. Oh, damn. Right. Okay.
Right.
Let me talk about it. I'm out. Do you want to invest? Yeah. So it's a little bit,
it's great. And, this is really important, I think, to identify this, that you've mentioned, Emma, the power of the network and meeting people, and how crucially those perhaps incidental interactions ultimately end up being what, is been the crucial part of what's end up being a business success. And one of my agency's advisors says 100% it's the power of network and being front of mind for them.
Totally. And I always say to my team who are not always comfortable going out network, I actually don't like the word networking.
No one does.
It's awful.
Very old school.
It's so old school, and I think it's intimidating. It doesn't. Cause also, it implies, like you say, the hard sell. We're going to go out and be like, "Hi, I do this. Yeah. Will you buy from me?" Yes. Actually, networking really is about making friends, building relationships, and just buying into people, and then helping that network in any way you can.
It feels a bit. Is it BNI? The local groups. It feels a little bit old school BNI, and they obviously work in their specific ways. Totally. But you probably hit the nail on the head. For me, it's about meeting people and becoming friends. And then kind of talking about, is there an opportunity? And that for me feels more natural. Yeah,
authentic. And not forced.
And even with Paul, it was really nice. He said, I'm investing into you because I like you. He put 600k because of me. And that's so nice. But it's, I put effort in. It's little things. I'm always punctual. I'm always early. I hate to be late. But I think it's getting the core things right, the basics. And I think sometimes, it's like, still for me, if somebody turns up late, that's a real big no-no.
It's a sign of disrespect.
There's a saying in there, isn't there, about being early is being on time. Being on time is being late.
Yes,
absolutely.
Exactly.
It's being unforgivable.
Actually, in each of our episodes, we also shout out some of the work other organisations are doing to balance purpose and profitability in their marketing. For you, you mentioned Backmarket in our pre-record chat. And what is it about them that you rate so much?
Yeah, they've. I mean, look, the valuation is crazy. 5 billion plus they've had.
That's the valuation.
It's the valuation, yeah. I mean, look, they've done extremely well. Disruptor. I love the brand. It's quite rebellious. There's humour. It's a challenger, and I think it's bright. It's colourful. It reminds me a little bit of Klarna. Klarna came out, and it's kind of, how do you sell finance to an age bracket, which is, finance is probably the most unsexiest product you can sell. But what they did is they made it pink, they made it sexy, they make it easy to use. So for me, they're a very similar kind of push as Klarna. I think they've made it fun to
Yeah.
buy pre-loved. And I come back to your sweaty jumper piece, but you know, which is absolutely right. Is no one looks at that anymore. People look at savings and people look at something. Well, why wouldn't you buy it? Because it's just going to sit in a drawer. But I think they've made it look. Yeah, I think it's great. It's something we aspire to.
Are we bringing sex back into marketing? It's quite classic and old school, perhaps.
Sex sells.
It does, and we've talked about it. Unfortunately, it does, and that's what happens, isn't it? I like the way they're very bright, they're very bold.
Yeah, they stand
like,
out.
You know, like the campaigns they do, for me, make me look.
Yeah.
And I think that's what marketing should be, right? You know, it shouldn't be so
Totally.
boring. It should be kind of laid on a wall where you kind of go, oh, right, okay, yeah, that's...
All too predictable. I mean, I like the way that recently they jumped on the cultural kind of news agenda with the Oasis comeback.
Yes.
Yeah, what was that ad there? Because they mentioned about something like you don't only come back for
Nolan Liam, which was really clever.
Yeah,
and there was a picture of an old iPod, which obviously does feel quite redundant or retro, should we say. Yeah. But that was really cool because it makes you think, oh, yeah, what happened to the iPod?
Yeah.
And then who knows where that consumer journey goes.
But I think it comes back to, from a business perspective, you've got to have good marketing.
Yes.
And you've got to have a good brand message. And I think this is probably why I really like Backmarket and Klarna. They're very clear on what they're trying to achieve, and they know their demographic. And going way back when we spoke about it, our 6.5K has enabled us to, I suppose, be a bit more targeted with stuff like this. But I just love how bright it is. Because look, buying a laptop isn't that sexy.
No.
A phone used to be sexy 8 years ago when everyone used to be excited. I've taken out of this room, no one really watched the Apple launch a couple of days ago.
Oh,
no,
really?
I'm ashamed to say.
But this
tanked, didn't it?
Yeah, but this is, 10 years ago, we would all stop and we'd all be around our TV or looking at it, and they're making it a little bit sexy again, because really nothing's changed in tech. The MacBook looks the same.
Yeah.
The phone, okay, a new orange colour. Oh, it's not exactly selling it. What we all want from tech is just give me a battery that lasts for 7 days,
Yes,
not
please.
another 2 megapixel camera. But unfortunately, it's become a bit boring, hasn't it? But I think for Backmarket, they're helping people. Look, the key message is pre-loved. They're helping people save money, but they're having fun with it.
Yeah,
it's there's humour there. There's creativity.
It
for in a really
resonates,
boring
doesn't
industry.
it? Yeah.
And I go back to the Klarna piece. Finance is not sexy.
I think Klarna have done well, for sure. I'd love to have had a couple of look at their ads before today. Let's go back to Backmarket. I'm looking at another one of their ads here. Is the use of swear words in marketing a good idea?
I think, again, it comes down to the demographic. I think they're targeting people who have probably not got the biggest budget and are probably a younger demographic. So if you're asking students, Gen Z, I think we're all a lot more relaxed. I mean, going back to we're not wearing a shirt and tie anymore. Life has changed considerably, a lot. So I think people are a lot more relaxed.
Yeah.
So I think, would I target that at a Saga Holidays? Absolutely not. It's a different demographic. But, from my side, I think it works. And I'm 40, but I quite like it because it's different. It stands out.
Same. It doesn't. I don't find it offensive. I find it quite humorous.
But also the key
cheeky.
message is sustainability. Yeah. Let's go back to what they are.
Yeah.
They're trying to actually, they're trying to make pre-loved sexy. So I think it's the key.
Job.
Yeah.
I think that I agree with that. I think it's spot on. I think they are talking to a demographic that's going to resonate with the messaging around, that they've prevented 1 million tons of carbon emissions. That's kind of front and center. Refurbish is better than new. It's connecting with what certainly their demographic is going to be an issue that we need to deal with right now. So yeah, it looks good. Was there anything else about Backmarket that you quite liked?
It's hard, isn't it? Because they're quite competitive.
Yeah.
So it's
not big them up too much.
Well, kudos for you for bringing it up on the show.
Yeah. Well, look, you've got to appreciate somebody who's good at something. So I appreciate they are very good at what they do, and they've come from really nowhere. In 4 or 5 years, they've come from a small brand in France to the UK, US. So they've grown considerably with obviously some large investment. I just think they're doing it very well.
Yeah.
I think they're doing it very well. I think the site is very slick. I'm not sure around the delivery. I've had a few people who've had negative experiences on delivery. So whether a phone's been delivered or it's been broken. But again, you are working within an industry which that can happen, unfortunately. But I think getting people to the site to buy a cheaper product, to get it delivered, to save money, I think they're one of the best.
Yeah, agreed. So before we go, what's your advice for marketers today?
Good question. So I suppose is really know your audience, is really investing that from the start. I think from my side it's so easy to think you know your audience, but I think as you as an entrepreneur, so I think you've got to step out of your bubble and really understand who your customer is. Don't think that you can understand your business. You're so deep into it, you should really spend money into finding out who your demographic is. That's one of my big thing. And look, having good people around, I think that's something which has probably been mentioned a few times on the show.
It's a theme.
I think don't be afraid to go out to someone who's got more experience than you, and to get their help, or to get their advice, or to get a non-exec director of somebody who has got vast experience, because I think that can change your business straight away. And I think people get a little bit caught up on going back to kind of the share of a business. If you've got good people around you, give up those shares. If you can't afford people, that can transition your business.
Yeah, great advice.
Having what is the 50% of something is better than 100% of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Ashley, where can people find you? Join Dig, and what would how can they support what you're doing?
Yeah, so look, our domain is www.joindig.co.uk. I suppose to help support us and help support the sustainability message is, look, when you're buying something moving forward, take a picture, share a URL, record it, type in the make and model, and just check us out. I'm pretty confident we'll save you quite a lot of money, whether it's pre-loved or whether it's new. We'll save you up those results in seconds, and you'll be quite surprised at the savings we can show you, plus earn cash back. And I suppose the big equivalent for me is you can earn cash back at Currys for a phone. You can buy a phone for £1,000 and earn £80 cash back. With us, we can save you that same phone for £500 and still give you £30 cash back. So for the consumer, it's so much more better off.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest is just check us out and see how much you can save, and I suppose trust us.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ashley, for coming on the show.
Thank you. For
sharing your
me.
insights, your knowledge, and your experience, which is absolutely going to be useful to everyone who's listening here, and certainly from an investment point of view as well. Don't forget that you can head over to pitchpurpose.co.uk. We can find links to our socials, plus all the platforms to like, share, and subscribe to future episodes. We're on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. This has been Pitch Purpose, the marketing podcast. I'm Ian Scott. This is Emma Heley. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.